The Bronx gets a VIP visitor today. Vice President Kamala Harris coming by to push for the president's Build It Back Better spending bill.
And it comes 3 days after the White House hosted another meeting between the president and Democratic lawmakers to try to move things along.
So here to talk to us about it is one of the meeting participants, Bronx Democrat Congressman Richie Torres. So Congressman, good morning to you. How you doing?
I'm fired up. I feel like we're on the verge of making history, so I'm excited.
There we go. And we're going to get to that meeting in just a second. But I do want to ask you about the news of the day right now, and that's Vice President Harris, along with the Health and Human Services Secretary, coming to the Bronx today. She won't be in your district, sir, but what in particular would you want her to take away from the Bronx visit today when she's there?
Look, the Bronx is the most resilient and resourceful county in America. So if we can make government work in the Bronx, we can make it work anywhere. And it's the right place to make the case for the Build Back Better Act. One of my frustrations is that the administration should have done more early on to go out in the road and to make the case for the American people, because for far too long, the Build Back Better Act has been more known for its price tag than for the actual policies and the people who would benefit from those policies.
Yeah, so
public policy should be about people.
Yeah, so let's switch back to that. How did that White House meeting go from your perspective?
Well, first, it was the first time I've ever been in the Oval Office, so it was just a personally overwhelming experience. And the president is a man on a mission. He's intent on passing not one but two of the largest infrastructure investments in American history. And the purpose of the meeting was to impress upon us the urgency of landing these two planes as swiftly and as smoothly as we can. He wants to get it done by the 31st, if not before then. He's given us ample time in Congress to iron out our differences, but there has to be a smooth landing. There has to, all things must come to an end.
Okay, so Democrats, they wanted to spend $3.5 trillion over 10 years on the president's package, right? That's as much as the federal government took in all of last year. Were you shooting way too high, or was that a really big number for negotiating purposes? Because, I'm listening to you talk about a smooth landing. How do you get there?
It's important to put the numbers in perspective. So as you said, it's not 3.5 trillion over the course of 10 years. It's 350 billion every year, which is less than 1.75% of the U.S. economy, of the $20 trillion economy. So 1.75% is the least we can do for the infrastructure of our country. And if we can squander $2 trillion on a war in Afghanistan, then surely we can invest trillions of dollars in the future and infrastructure of the United States. I'm hopeful that we're making progress because we're beginning to see greater clarity from Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. For far too long, the two of them were unclear about where they stood. And we see Kyrsten Sinema making concessions when it comes to taxes. And we see Joe Manchin, we're accommodating him. We're removing the Clean Energy Performance Program standard from the bill. So we're making the concessions necessary for moving the bill forward.
So the way it looks like right now, the bill will be much smaller to get through the Senate. So what do you think should be cut?
Well, I suspect the bill is going to be around the $2 trillion range over 10 years. It will likely include historic investments in home care for senior citizens, child care, universal pre-K for 3 and 4-year-olds. My two highest priorities are the child tax credit and affordable housing. There is a proposal for only a 1-year extension of the child tax credit. I'm concerned that a 1-year extension is a death sentence for the child tax credit. If the Republicans win control of the House in 2022, then the child tax credit will be left to expire and tens of millions of children will be plunged into poverty and our greatest achievement will be undone. So I'm gonna fight my heart out to secure a much longer term expansion of the child tax credit. And then I've heard that affordable housing is on the chopping block. And I said to the president, I quoted a wise philosopher, Jimmy McMillan. I said, Jimmy McMillan once said the rent is too damn high. Here in New York City, there are essential workers who put their lives at risk for all of us during the peak of the pandemic, but who find themselves languishing in a shelter because of the affordability crisis. Nearly half of the household heads in the New York City shelter system are homeless. So we have an obligation to create and preserve affordable housing on a scale that we've never done before in decades.
Had you ever heard that phrase? Had you ever heard from the Jimmy McMillan phrase?
I'm not sure if he did, so it might be unique to New York.
Seriously. So let me ask you this, because we only have a few seconds left. What comes next, right? What is the next step to get this done?
So I think we hope to have a framework, and then once we have a framework, we could have a vote by the 31st. So I'm hopeful, but I don't want to obsess about the deadline because in the end, we're on the verge of making history.
Okay.
And in the long arc of history, no one remembers deadlines. People remember the end product. People are going to remember the child tax credit and the impact in lifting millions of children out of poverty.
Good point there. All right, real quick, 10 seconds. What was it like in that Oval Office? What wowed you?
Well, I noticed there were pictures of 5 presidents, but right at the center is FDR. Joe Biden will be to the 21st century what FDR was to the 20th century.
There you go. Congressman Richie Torres, appreciate you being here and taking the time this morning to kind of lay this all out.
Of course.
Keep us posted.